Hey there from the KUOW newsroom. This is Seattle Now. I'm Patricia Murphy with a roundup of today's top stories. It's Tuesday, June 24th. The Seattle City Council has banned landlords from using rent-setting software to suggest and set prices. The legislation called out software company RealPage, which is facing a lawsuit from Washington State for allegedly allowing non-public data to be shared with property owners. That data is then used to recommend rent prices. Bill sponsor Kathy Moore says the legislation may need tweaks in the future, but given the current housing crisis in Seattle, action is needed now.
We want to make sure that this is a city that all who want to live here have the ability to do so. And I think that this is one small way that we can contribute to making this a more diverse and equitable city.
Landlords who violate the ban could face penalties of up to $7,500 per violation. The legislation now goes to Mayor Bruce Harrell's office for his signature. Amid a shaky ceasefire between Iran and Israel, Seattle Congressman Adam Smith says it remains unclear how much damage Saturday's U.S. airstrikes did to Iran's nuclear sites.
Iran's nuclear program is wounded but intact. We don't have any realistic estimate as to what the change has been from our attack or even from Israel's attack.
Smith is the top Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee. He spoke with KUOW's Soundside this afternoon. President Trump has claimed the U.S. attack completely destroyed Iran's nuclear capability, but an early intelligence report published today by the New York Times says it may have only temporarily delayed the country's nuclear program. Iran and Israel agreed to a ceasefire on Monday, despite strikes and counterstrikes that continued in the hours after agreeing to pause hostilities. Washington Congresswoman Kim Schreier had harsh words this morning for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. The U.S. Secretary for Health and Human Services was on Capitol Hill to testify about his department's 2026 budget. Schreier, who's a pediatrician, took the opportunity to blast his move this month to fire an entire panel of vaccine experts.
You have lied to the American people. You have lied to parents about vaccines for 20 years. And I also want to be clear that I will lay all responsibility for every death from a vaccine-preventable illness at your feet.
Schreier also criticized Kennedy's decision to change vaccine recommendations via social media post without consulting experts. Kennedy said earlier in the hearing that he consults the CDC, quote, on every policy regarding vaccination. The National Transportation Safety Board gave its final report this morning on last year's door plug blowout on a Boeing 737 MAX. A preliminary report found 4 bolts that help keep the panel in place were missing or were not replaced when the door plug was removed for repairs. NTSB Chairwoman Jennifer Hamady said during today's hearing there's been a lot of focus on Boeing workers making mistakes, but she also said regulators need to tackle some larger problems.
Let me be clear. An accident like this does not happen because of an individual or even a group of individuals. Aviation is much more resilient than that. An accident like this only happens when there are multiple system failures.
The report released today says a number of regulatory compliance issues led up to the incident, issues that Hamady says should have been evident to Boeing and the FAA. Washington Congressman Rick Larson says he has some concerns about the conditions at the Northwest Ice Processing Center in Tacoma.
About 1,500 people are here. It's nearly double what it was at the beginning of the year, and they aren't staffed up fully to be able to serve these people every day with even basic services.
The Democrat recently visited Alfredo Juarez Zeffirino at the facility. Zeffirino is a prominent farm worker organizer with no criminal record who's been held at the detention center since ICE agents arrested him in March.
He still seems resilient, still seems hopeful, but it's taken its toll on him being in the detention facility.
Zeffirino's case has prompted supporters to speak out on his behalf and against the Trump administration. Zeffirino and his family have asked that he be released ahead of a November court date where he'll face charges that he's in the U.S. illegally. The Kittitas County Sheriff's Department is shifting its focus in the search for Travis Decker, accused of killing his 3 daughters. Officials now say there's no evidence that Decker is in the area or even still alive. Detectives have investigated dozens of tips and potential sightings since Decker's 3 daughters were found dead at a camping site near Leavenworth on June 2nd. But the Kittitas County Sheriff's Department says it's now directing some teams to look for his remains in case Decker died somewhere in the nearby wilderness. Amazon Fresh will lay off 125 employees as the company moves to shut down its Federal Way store. The location at the Commons Mall opened in 2022. The layoffs will go into effect in mid-August, according to paperwork filed with the state. This latest announcement follows the closure of the Whole Foods market in Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood last week. Next time on Seattle Now, a woman whose mother died in Washington's 2021 heat dome is suing several major oil companies for their impact on the climate.
It's really about accountability. I never in a million years would have guessed that this would be how I lose my mom. There's so many other things that you're worried about with the people you love. This was nowhere near on my radar.
That's all for today from the KUOW newsroom in Seattle. Our producer is Andy Hurst, and I'm Patricia Murphy. Seattle Now and KUOW are members of the NPR network. See you later.